stay with us to the end. Caitlin Clark just delivered one of the most candid, engaging, and newsy interviews of her young pro career, sitting down on Zoom with WNBA icons Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi. It was unscripted, direct, and full of substance. From the reality check of joining the WNBA to locker room narratives, to the truth behind those high-stakes NCAA battles. If you follow women's basketball, the WNBA, and the Indiana Fever, drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this video and subscribe for more in-depth coverage of the league's most talked-about player and the season ahead. The headline is simple. Clark looks and sounds like a pro who already understands the moment she is living in. The former NCAA superstar didn't rely on Polish or talking points. She spoke about the league she is now part of, why that first meeting with Taurasi in Phoenix mattered, how the Fever's revamped roster changes their ceiling, and what she's doing to expand her game. The conversation even touched on old storylines, like Sheryl Swoop's locker room rumor, giving Clark a chance to address what she called a clear mismatch between perception and reality. Let's start with the clip everyone remembers. Early last year, Diana Taurasi faced a camera and said what veterans often tell rookies. Reality is coming. It made sense in context. The WNBA is a league of grown professionals, many with a decade or more of overseas and league experience. The message wasn't personal, it was structural. A year later, Taurasi has softened the edge on that warning. In this week's sit-down, she described her first game against Clark as something bigger than a matchup. It felt like a passing of the torch, a moment where eras overlapped in a packed arena that sounded like a title game. Clark's reaction to the old soundbite? Measured, confident, good-humored, a small smile that said she got the point then and gets it now. The subtext is obvious. The rookie has seen the speed, size, and physicality of the WNBA up close, and she's still leaning into the challenge. Taurasi went further than any sound bite. She detailed the atmosphere in Phoenix for that first meeting with Clark's Indiana Fever. It felt like the last game that would ever be played, she said. Thunderous crowd, genuine anticipation, the rare regular season night that carries post-season electricity. Clark agreed the energy was different, but added something crucial. Her team didn't just show up, they finished. The Fever trailed by double digits before clawing back to win. At the time, their first victory over a team with a winning record. In Clark's words, that comeback against a legend was a turning point for a young group that needed proof they could close against elite opponents. Confidence in the WNBA is earned, and that night helped them earn it. That blend of competitiveness and respect ran through the entire interview. Bird guided the conversation as, hey, way a veteran point guard runs a set, wide view, good timing, the right question at the right moment. Taurasi brought perspective and honesty, acknowledging how strange it is to share a court with players she watched dominate in college. Clark matched their candor. She celebrated the high points without glossing over the grind that comes with a league built on experience. The next chapter, Clark made clear, is about the Fever's roster and how quickly they can gel. She did not overpromise. On paper, she said, they've added key pieces across the board, shooters and spacers like Sophie Cunningham, disruptive defenders such as Sydney Colson and Brianna Turner, a new voice on the sidelines in head coach Stephanie White, and proven front court veterans like Natasha Howard and Alana Smith. Clark name-checked several teammates and emphasized the value of playoff reps, something the Fever lacked last year. The reality, she stressed, is timing. Training camp opens, preseason hits almost immediately. And 7 new players means more than half the roster is learning each other on the fly. She called it what it is, a compressed runway that demands leadership, clarity, and a steep learning curve. That point matters. Clark isn't just talking about her own shot diet or usage. She's thinking like a lead guard. With experience arriving in the locker room and expectations spiking outside it, she framed the task in 2 tracks: build chemistry fast and lean on veterans who've been through deep playoff runs. Names like Howard, Colson, and others aren't abstract to her. She had specific roles and scenarios in mind: late game defense, late clock offense, leadership in tough road environments. For a second-year pro, it was notable to hear her talk in those terms. And yes, the off-season weight room photo that went viral came up. Clark laughed about the angle in the internet, doing what the internet does, but then pivoted to the work. She's in the gym because the league demands it. She wants to feel stronger through contact, more stable off 2 feet, and more dangerous in the in-between areas. The scouting report on Clark at Iowa highlighted deep range and playmaking. The WNBA scouting report closed those highways fast. In response, she's targeting specific additions: a reliable mid-range jumper, a floater she can deploy against length at the rim and finishes that holdup when the whistle doesn't blow. That's pro self-assessment. Identify what defenses took away and build the counters. It's rare to see a player this young talk so comfortably about the unglamorous part of the job. She said plainly that she enjoys the work, lifting, footwork, repetition, and understands that leadership responsibilities rise with the talent level around her. The standard in a star-heavy roster doesn't go down, it goes up. Her approach? Meet it with preparation. The interview also gave Clark space to address an old headline. When asked about the narrative that the Fever locker room was fractured, she didn't dodge. The rumor grew legs last season after a national voice suggested Indiana had internal issues. Clark dismissed the claim and pointed back to the team's trajectory. You don't start the year 0-8 and then stabilize without a cohesive locker room. She said last year's group had fun, stuck together, and learned on the job. In her telling, that bond, plus the experience they lacked, explained the turnaround. It was a clear, direct refutation of a trope that often follows young, rebuilding teams. From there, the conversation turned to the NC memories that made Clark a household name. 3 tournament meetings with UConn, including a Sweet 16 and a Final Four. She didn't romanticize those battles. She praised Gino Auriemma's preparation and the Huskies' discipline, noting they consistently deployed some of the best scouts she faced and never gave her one look for 4 quarters. It was a chess match. If she saw drop coverage in one stretch, something entirely different arrived after the timeout. If one defender pestered her full court, another with a different profile took the assignment next. She singled out Nika Mule as one of the toughest on-ball defenders she's seen. 94 feet, no space, every catch a skirmish. The point wasn't flattery, it was respect for how organized, adaptable, and relentless UConn is under Auriemma. It also hinted at how Clark translates those lessons to the WNBA, where every team has versions of that game plan and the personnel to execute it. When UConn's star guard came up, Clark didn't hold back her admiration. Paige Bucher's poise, she said, is the quality that jumps off the screen and will matter immediately at the next level. Everything happens fast for rookies. New city, new coach, new teammates, outsized expectations, and composure is the thread that ties it together. Clark highlighted Bucher's mid-range as elite, praised her 3-level scoring, and pointed to her versatility on and off the ball. Coming from a player whose own skill set reshaped college basketball, those are meaningful words. They also served as a reminder that the women's game is in a healthy place, a pipeline of stars with different styles and mindsets who can elevate the WNBA's standard and spotlight. Throughout, Sue Bird provided subtle context, what transitions typically look like, where bumps usually show up, how veterans measure growth beyond a box score. Taurasi, for her part, made it clear that what viewers experienced in Phoenix was not a one-off. It felt like an inflection point for the league. Arenas sold out, national conversation focused on women's basketball, and rookies who moved numbers on TV and in the building. To hear a player of Taurasi's stature frame that night as bigger than winning or losing underscores the moment the WNBA is living in. For Indiana fans, the practical takeaway is forward-looking. Training camp opens, preseason arrives in a hurry, and then the marathon starts. The Fever need to establish roles and combinations quickly. Clark's checklist reflects that reality: ramp up chemistry, leverage the new experience in tight moments and widen her own scoring map so defenses can't script her out in crunch time. With Kelsey Mitchell's shooting gravity, Aaliyah Boston's interior presence, and the new arrivals she mentioned, Indiana has the ingredients to make a jump, if the mix comes together in time. It's also worth acknowledging what Clark didn't do. She didn't take bait on old grudges, she didn't minimize the gap between college and the pros, and she didn't place the spotlight solely on herself. The through line was team, process, and growth. For a player who has already carried historic attention into every building, that balance is not trivial. Zooming out, this interview captured the state of women's basketball in 2025 better than any press release could. You have a generational score treating the WNBA like the challenge it is. You have living legends welcoming the attention she brings while reminding everyone that greatness in this league requires time and adjustments. You have a rookie class, and another on the way, with the skill and star power to expand the audience. And you have specific technical conversations about footwork, shot profiles, and defensive schemes, proof that fans want more than highlights, they want the craft. Key news lines to watch as the season approaches. Caitlin Clark's expanded shot profile. Mid-range attempts, floaters, and finishes are not just buzzwords. Track how often she gets to those spaces and her efficiency there. If she adds those counters to the deep-range pull-ups and skip passes, defenses will have harder choices. Indiana Fever's continuity. With 7 new faces and a compressed calendar, early stumbles wouldn't be a surprise. The question is how quickly the Fever settle on lineups that maximize spacing for Clark and paint touches for their bigs, while defending well enough to win close games. Leadership distribution. Veterans like Natasha Howard and other experienced additions will be vital late in games, in film sessions, and during losing streaks. Clark emphasized that experience for a reason. The Fever lacked it last year. National Spotlight games. The Phoenix matchup that Taurasi described won't be the only one with playoff energy. Expect road games in big markets to have a similar feel. How Indiana manages those environments will say a lot about their growth curve. The broader rookie conversation. Clark's praise for Paige Bueckers signposted what evaluators already believe. Multiple high-profile guards will soon be asked to lead pro offenses. Seeing how those skills translate will shape the next few years of the league. As for the public narratives that swirl around any team with a star, Clark's answer was clear. Block the noise. She reminded viewers that outside, voices rarely have the full picture of a locker room, and pointed back to the only metric that mattered for the 2024 Fever: steady improvement from a tough start. That's the pros' answer. And if you watched last season closely, it fits. None of this erases the obvious. The WNBA is deeper than ever. Rookies who look unstoppable against teenagers run into scouting and physicality unlike anything they've seen. Taurasi knew what she was talking about when she said, "Reality is coming." The twist is Clark's timing. Reality arrived, and she's already adjusting. If this kind of insider look at Caitlin Clark's interview with Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi is what you're here for, tell us in the comments what you expect from the Indiana Fever this season. Should Clark live in the mid-range more? Which addition will be most impactful? Who's the toughest defensive matchup she'll face? Like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for detailed WNBA coverage, game breakdowns, player development deep dives, and weekly updates on the league's biggest storylines, from the Indiana Fever and Phoenix Mercury to UConn stars moving up and the next wave of NCAA talent. Women's basketball has momentum. What Clark, Bird, and Taurasi just showed is that it also has something rarer: a shared stage where past, present, and future can speak plainly about the work and the joy of the game.